Matt here from Matt Likes Comics, and I'm here with Allan from the Comic Collector Geek, who some people may recognize. He's been on YouTube for quite a while, and the reason why I have him on today is that he has started a Kickstarter project for a comic book based on Golden Age history, specifically of the good girl ladies of the Golden Age. Hi, Allan. How are you today?
Hi, thanks for having me. And I guess I'm your first interview, or am I?
You're my You're my first interview here in this format. I did an interview at the Comic Con.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I've seen that. That's great.
But we're going. This is my first one on this one. So, people out there, comment if there's something that if the lighting looks bad or things like that, so that I can change things for future videos. Now, back to the subject at hand. Allan, can you tell us what the name of the project is and anybody and the name of your collaborators?
So it's going to be Vixens of the Golden Age. So Vixens, like Vixen is sort of a sexy female character thing. So I figured, kind of has that feel to it. So it's Vixens of the Golden Age. And it's I'm collaborating with a bunch of people. So a bunch of artists. And then a guy that does Fivefinity, which is another publishing company. Basically, they produce a whole bunch of different things. They did like Cherry, they did Mandy, they did a bunch of like kind of good girl stuff. So, I figured they were a good partnership, and they had experience doing Kickstarters. So, they're helping me with bringing in good artists and helping me with the publishing and helping me with the Kickstarter. My role in it is very simple. I just have to bring an audience and come up with the idea for what's inside the comic. So
that is cool. So are you producing this book in Canada, or is it being produced in the United States?
It's in the US. It's
in the US?
Yeah, it's an American thing. So when people order these things from the Kickstarter is when I'll get my copies too. So I don't get any copies until they get ordered.
Which makes sense, really. I don't think they would.
It gets all printed at the same time.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, they wouldn't print more than necessary unless you order thousands.
Yeah. So that in a way, that's one good thing with the whole thing. It's probably going to be like I imagine like a print run of like less than a couple hundred kind of level. Mm-hmm. It's going to be very, very exclusive. That's kind of the cool thing about it. These are kind of, if it's successful, it could be like something big. But this will be the first of hopefully many comics related to this kind of thing.
And that brings me to, I guess, a follow-up question is, will this be a one-shot, or do you see this being something that will continue?
Yeah, so it's really based on the success of this first issue. I actually had to spend my own money to pay for the artists and all that kind of stuff, and if I want to at least break even, that's one goal, break even. But if there's enough money left over, then if it's enough, then I will do a second issue. And my goal is like each issue is like sort of summarizes 14 characters.
Right.
It's like insight into those 14 characters. So there's actually like a few dozen characters that I have in mind. Like I created a long list of characters that I'd like to kind of like visit within these books. All female. It's all female characters.
Obviously. I mean, Vixen.
If there might be ones with male characters later as well, because there's some really cool Golden Age, characters in general that are like, that were kind of lost to the Golden Age. And that's really the theme of this. These are all characters that were kind of lost to the Golden Age. Not really ones that people think about nowadays, though some of them have reappeared, but.
Yeah. So that is how you determined who you were going to pick. It was by the fact that they're gone, or was there another category, another reason why you decided to go with the 14 you picked?
So there's a few reasons, the ones I picked. So one of the characters that I picked is Miss Mask. Okay.
Okay.
So I really like Miss Mask. If you watch some of my earlier videos, I was going on about her all the time because I was picking up a lot of her related comics. Okay. And I liked the character. So I made sure to have her in this first issue. Uh, there was other characters that I really liked as well that I collected. But there was a few that I wanted to include, but
Right.
couldn't include. So one of the things is with
It,
when you're doing publishing, you have to make sure that you have rights to publish them, right?
that would have been my
So
follow-up. Do you have,
yeah,
are these all open source, or like
these
are
are
they
all public domain
public
characters.
domain? Yes.
Yeah, and there's actually some weirdness about the way public domain works. So, for example, one of the characters that I plan to do, and maybe will be able to do, if this current comic is successful, is a character known as Phantom Lady, and you can see her right
Phantom
over my
Lane.
shoulder.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, of course, you're referring to the first one and not the one that DC has the current copyright on.
That's the thing. So as long as you style it based on the original format, the Golden Age format, you're allowed to publish it. if you make it more like the current version, you're not allowed to publish it. So there's like weird rules like that where like if somebody puts a small twist on it, then it becomes a new copyright. So that's how they can extend these copyrights
Yeah.
beyond.
You also
Beyond.
have the difficulties that American copyright law and Canadian copyright law are completely different, because and the Americans have changed their copyright law recently,
Yeah.
where Canada did so as well, but not to the extent the Americans did. And the basic premise in Canadian copyright law is the same. So, Allan, have you got any samples to show us?
Yeah, I do. So
Okay.
I have 3 pages, three the kind of pinups. So first character is Black Cat. This will be colored. It's just I did it as a black and white printout.
That is a very nice, very, very nice picture.
Yeah, so Black Cat is a pretty cool character. So in the comic, I'll explain what key comic book, where you get her first appearance, what her stats are, her origin, all that kind of like information about the character. And then there'll be like one page with that, which is just sort of like has like an image of the character. And then the other page will be a pinup like this. Okay, this is kind of a cute little pinup. And
That is actually, that sounds like a really good format, because you'll be doing it. It will almost like be, if you remember the Who's Who, or the official handbook of the Marvel Universe from the 80s.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
sounds
So
very similar.
that's sort of the style that
Yeah.
I was going for, actually. That, or actually, I was thinking more of the monster books from like Dungeons
Right,
and
Dungeons and
Dragons.
Dragons. Yes.
Similar where you get the stats and stuff. Like
Yeah.
that's really where I was coming from. But
That,
same idea
that's
as
a great
always.
format.
So
I
I
mean,
was almost going to call the book Golden Age Compendium or something like that, where it's kind of in that Dungeons and Dragons or like
right.
DC Universe or Marvel Universe compendium books. So yeah, I don't know, but this is the first one. That's Black Cat.
Awesome. Black.
And,
I've seen a lot of Black Cat on your channel, and I think she's a fantastic character myself.
and so that's by a character artist I'm not as familiar with, Yonami, semi-famous artist, not really famous, but then we got Larry Wells, who did Cherry Pop Tart, and this is Bullet Girl.
Yeah. Oh, that is fantastic.
It's got sort of a Cherry Pop Tart version of Bullet
I don't
Girl.
seem to recall her having as much in the middle exposed in the 40s books.
No. So the way it works is the one side where it's all the stats and stuff will have more of a Golden Age style pinup, not pinup, but like a character
Right.
done. And then the pinup page will be more of like a modern take on it. So this is Larry Wells' take on Bullet Girl. So
That is very cool.
and then the next one is artist that I actually interviewed on my channel, George Weber. And this is a character known as Rula.
Rula is another one that you and Stephen are very big
Stephen
fans
Book,
of.
yeah, we go on about her a lot. So Rula was done by like great artists like Jack Kamen and Matt Baker and stuff like that. So it's like some pretty famous artists from the Golden Age worked on this character, and this is kind of got that bondage jungle feel to it. Even has some of these like natives in the background, just like typical kind of Golden Age elements to it. Yeah. So that's kind of
Excellent.
a sample of the pinup style stuff that we'll be doing. It even has a skull, so that
Yes, that's really nice.
I'm sure if you can see that, but little skull
Yes,
there.
that is a
all that
fantastic.
little has all the little like golden age elements to it. Bondage, like good girl, a little bit sexiness. It's it should be fun. It's really designed to be
Speaking
fun.
about the Golden Age, what was it about the Golden Age that drew you to it the more in particular?
So, actually, my background is more in coin collecting. I was really into coin collecting, like as a young kid, and so I sort of gravitated to things that were old.
Right.
I kind of had like this sort of like of things that were old, and I thought, oh, that there's certain classiness, and I kind of appreciated the style of the Golden Age, and so I always wanted like true first appearances, not like so I always wanted Wonder Woman, the first appearance of Wonder Woman,
For
or
example, you would prefer to have a World's Finest 3 than a Batman 179 or
yeah,
whatever.
whatever it is. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I always want that true Golden Age appearance where they made their first
Mhm.
appearance in and I ended up wondering, like this question kind of came in my head over as I was trying to find Golden Age books, was what killed what why is it a Golden Age and then that just died, right? So I got really into the Destruction of the Innocent, which is the book that
Right.
led to the Comic Code Authority, and then I became like I'm a rabbit hole finder, I guess.
Right.
I go down these
I
weird
think
rabbit holes.
all comic collectors to an extent are. I mean, I've
Yeah,
dug down some rabbit holes.
yeah.
If you when you see my first unboxing video, you'll see what a rabbit hole I went down.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like one of those rabbit holes, like where I got interested in Seduction of the Innocent, and then the books that were part of Seduction of the Innocent, and then I noticed that there a lot of them had really great covers. Like just I got really into that, and so I pretty much got all of the Seduction of the Innocent books. But a lot of them were good girl, and then that led me to really getting keen on certain artists like Matt Baker and Alex
Right.
Schomburg and Jack Keeman and a whole bunch of others. And that sort of led me down all these other rabbit holes. And I always liked sexy women in comics. I was a big fan of like the '90s,
I hope
bad
these
girls.
noises from my children upstairs are not making huge
No, no,
things.
no, no. It's
I,
good so
I
far.
I've told them to stop. Anyway, I'll
Yeah, yeah.
um anyway what was I going to say? Yes, my problem was I've always been interested in the Golden Age too, but because of my thinking and financial situations over the years, I have always thought of it as too expensive for my tastes. Like I
Unattainable,
couldn't get it.
unattainable, right?
And you have that personally shown me how that is not 100% true.
No.
Is there any other advice you could give a starting out Golden Age collector?
So what happened with me was like I kind of started the Golden Age in a weird way that not necessarily the best recommended way. Like one of the first big books that I got was a Golden Age book, which was my All Star 8, which is right there, there. Okay, and that was like just a huge commitment. But that commitment into buying some really big Grail book uh, made it seem like, hey, this is possible. And then it also opened up like to and going into Destruction Innocent and all these other things, all these rabbit holes. I was finding that there were a lot of books that weren't that expensive, that weren't like thousands and thousands of dollars, but were made more like $5, $10, like
Right,
really inexpensive books. Like there's a lot of like Dell and stuff like that that are really
right.
inexpensive and actually have pretty key appearances in them. Like you can get the first appearance of the Hardy Boys in comics, which
Yes,
and
the
that's
Hardy
stuff.
Boys are. are an icon, like in
Yeah,
terms
I
of
mean, you can get that, that's like a $10 book, or first, certain books, like it's just like, wow, why are these so underrated? And so there's a lot of stuff. Also, there's a couple tricks that I do with getting characters that I really, really like. Um, one of the things that people always hear is like, All-Star 8, it's $1 million book. And that's how people think, oh, it's $1 million book. But if you buy it in lower grade,
that's right.
all of a sudden it becomes affordable. If you
That's
buy
the
it
other thing.
stored, it's all it becomes affordable.
You see a guy like Comic Tom, for example, we'll use him, and he's talking about 9.8 prices, and then they rarely talk
Scares
about
you
say
away.
4.0 or 3.5, and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
realize that if you're not of the I must have the best I can out there
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah,
it's the only way, then yes, it can be very affordable.
yeah. I
And
mean,
I mean, I appreciate the fact that now that I can actually look at some of them, and I've picked up some since.
yeah, yeah.
So
As long as you're willing to, sacrifice on the grade, like, the way I think of it is this, like, a few of my books like are restored. Like that's a sort of a taboo within the comic collecting thing to buy restored. But for me, it's like I can buy a book that presents really beautifully at a fraction of
exactly,
the cost.
it
Sometimes
all
one
comes
tenth of the cost. It's like
it all
insane.
comes down to what you want. If you really
Mhm.
want that book and you don't care, who
Mhm.
is anybody? I mean, I'm of the mantra: if it works for you, who are they to comment about how you like it? So
Yeah, yeah. So I try not to be a snob about the whole thing. Like,
right,
I just want to have the book. There's so many books that I'd love to have. I'm a bit of hoarder that way, but
yeah,
I do have like a really wide taste of comics that I'd love to have in my collection.
yeah.
Some-
That's the problem, isn't it? I found for the longest time I was buying everything, and then
Mhm.
I decided I would specialize a little, and I still find that I'm buying everything.
Yeah, I know. It's like well, it's so easy to go down rabbit holes, right? And
I
you
know.
find like, oh, this one, oh, I'm really interested in this story. Oh, it connects to
Yeah.
this new character. Oh, what's that character's first? And it's like, oh, God.
I mean, when I bought my first Dave Stevens book, it wasn't that hard to buy another one, not even 20 minutes later.
Well,
It's
yeah,
just
I
like,
mean,
well,
that's
everybody had them.
well, and like and it's hard not to get excited with the hype and stuff.
Right.
Dave Stevens is a good one because when I first saw his artwork, I was like, wow, this guy's really good. I really, really like his stuff. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go down that rabbit hole
Yeah.
of picking up every cover he ever did. And so I did that. I
Right.
went and bought I have every comic book cover he has done. There's a few fanzines that I don't have, but I have every comic book cover he did. It's one of those things like I did that before was in the hype, but it's one of those things where I find that I go down those rabbit holes and I just really love somebody's artwork or really like the cover. Some of those books I'll never read them. I
Right.
buy it for the artwork, like literally,
Which
like I
again
love the
is,
covers. There's other books that I buy because I love the read.
mhm,
It's like you gotta, there's certain you pick your
right.
battles in terms of
Yeah.
where you buy, but
Someone like me who reads comics, we're always stuck with a pile this big because even though, as you know, you
you
read
read
this
it and then
many
you get
and then you
and then
bought
you get
this
another
many
pile.
more and so on. So I've always got what I call the accordion pile
Yeah,
going.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, but to get back on the topic of our interview, what kind of rewards are you planning on offering on your Kickstarter levels?
So yeah, so the when this video drops will be after the Kickstarter's up. So the Kickstarter,
Yes.
I'll give you the link and we'll put it in
I was
the
going to ask you if you would send the link along, and then we'll
yeah.
put it in the description of the video.
But the interesting thing is, as we're recording this, I really don't know what the Kickstarter is going to look like. I,
Right,
I I have certain ideas in mind because it's not me setting up the Kickstarter. As I said, my partner's doing
right,
that. So I I'm gonna try to have it where there's like you can buy individual covers because
right.
there's gonna be a bunch of covers. Uh and so you can buy whatever covers you like individually. But then there'll be packages where you can buy, like, let's say a group of all the naughty covers or all the sequels.
have you got an idea of the price points?
Not really. Usually, what I've seen in the past is anywhere from $20 to $30 per comic. That's sort of
Yeah,
typical.
which is, and of course we're talking American dollars here, so
Yes, yes, we are.
we're
Yeah.
talking. No, this is that. I'll be honest. This was around a similar level for the guy Eric July did for his
Yes, yes, yeah.
Kickstarter
When he did
starter.
his what's it called?
Yeah, I did. The name's escaping me too.
I actually have it, which is kind of
Yeah,
sad.
I
I actually
went
read
there
it. So
and
Rippaverse,
they had closed.
Rippaverse, Rippaverse.
Rippaverse, yes. They
Yeah.
had
So
actually were down at the time I went, like the site wasn't working, and then I didn't go back. So
okay.
I did look at getting one myself.
Yeah, I like supporting, like, different creators. Like, I think
Yeah.
I think it's important that the community supports itself.
Well, yeah, that's why channels like yourself,
Mhm.
who you talk to creators, and you do a lot of interviews with them, and K-Pops, who she
Oh,
talks to a lot of
K-pop is
creators.
really good for that.
K-pop just spent a month doing Asian American creators for Asian
Wow,
American and Pacific Islander month,
that's
and
awesome.
I,
So,
I watched. I actually watched 4 or 5 of them. They're interesting. They're interesting stories that are kind of be coming out.
mhm.
I've bookmarked a couple. I want to see a little more information first. I have limited funds for things like Kickstarter and stuff because we do have to eat after all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
they get pretty pricey.
Yeah.
I do support a few Kickstarters,
Yeah,
but
you
they
get
get
to four or
really
five,
pricey
and all of
quick.
a sudden you
Yeah.
do 4 or 5, and suddenly you've spent $200 and realize, oops.
Oops. Yeah. No, I spent a fortune on Zombie Tramp
I
Kickstarter.
would
Something.
I would believe that. I've seen
Yeah.
your Zombie Tramp collection. I believe that.
No, because they
Um,
come out with like a dozen covers or like 30 covers.
yeah,
It's like crazy. It's like, okay, well, that's
at
a lot of
least
covers.
well that is something actually I want to address on a different day about the variant covers and speculation.
Hmm.
Back once my live shows start.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so basically, is there anything else about the Kickstarter you'd like to say?
Um, just I hope people support me. If they get the idea of it, that really it's about promoting the golden age, kind of making people
Right.
aware of the cool characters. I love these characters. Like, these are characters that, to me they're cool, and I'm actually really excited about Taylor Swift. Believe it
Right.
or not.
About
So,
being in Dazzler.
no, no,
No?
there's a new rumor about Taylor Swift.
Oh, this I haven't heard. What is it?
Okay. So there's a golden age character called the Blonde Phantom.
Yes, I'm aware of her.
And they're talking about having Taylor Swift play the Blonde Phantom, which would be so. It's a Scarlett Johansson project too. So there's like a whole bunch of famous
Mhm.
people tied to putting out the Blonde Phantom. So that's a golden age character that has been sort of lost in time as well. Like,
Right.
and to see them come back would be really awesome.
I could just
Um,
picture Travis Kelsey right now as the evil pass catcher.
so yeah, I
Sorry.
mean, it'd be cool. It'd be cool. Yeah. So something like, yeah, they could bring in like all the football fans too. So
Well, as a football fan, I can honestly say I don't care about the Taylor Swift thing, but there are a lot that got upset by it.
well, yeah. So my point
You
is,
know,
like,
I
if
don't get it, but I don't get the upset. My daughter's 11. She's a Swiftie, and
yeah.
she's very happy about it. She
Well,
actually would watch football games with me as a
for
result. So
me, it's like I ultimately want the comic community to grow and to be healthy in the future. And if somebody like Taylor Swift can bring
right,
new life to the
and I
whole
agree
market,
100% with that. The
like
comic
either
book
as
community,
Dazzler or Blonde Phantom.
yeah,
Blonde Phantom would be great because, it brings back some of that golden age love. That'd be
yeah.
cool to me. I'd really love to see that. So, I think that's what's really lacking nowadays, that we don't have that next generation coming up. And
That is scaring me too. The fact that okay, we have a reasonably strong community in terms of back issues. However, the
mhm,
sales of new books are so low, and they're
No.
doing such a bad job of attracting younger, newer readers. The ways they're attempting it are they're doing it
Just
in
not right.
ways that are alienating the old while not bringing in the new.
Yeah,
I'm not
that's
going to get
that's
into detail.
exactly what I would have said. That's the way I would describe it. Like the stories, the way that they're written are for a demographic that would never buy comics. And
Precisely. And
and then so the people that are like our age,
yeah.
or maybe a little bit younger, like maybe like I'd say like plus or minus 20 years of our age,
Yes,
is
I
that
was going to say
that's the comic community.
I've seen
Yeah.
a few
So there's
30-year-olds out there now, but
yeah. So what I'm
that's
saying is
that is the youngest I've seen.
that's the youngest. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying, plus or minus. So that's the demographic of comic collectors. And, you know, we need people that are younger than 30 to take it up. And the comics are written where they're more mature in some ways
Yeah.
more mature, but so they're not quite tailored to those
Mhm.
younger generations. Um, Now, I actually thought when they did the series of Spider-Man and Friends,
Right.
like with like Spider-Gwen and Miles
Yeah.
Morales and all that, good play. I think that was a good play that brings in younger audiences. Um,
Except they're not doing many books. And when the problem
exactly.
with Marvel, okay, I will say this will be my rant and then I'll stop.
Okay.
Marvel does too many stops and starts because they need a
Yes.
number one. Here's a
Yeah.
6-issue miniseries, but there's a big number one, and the big number one is $3 more than the rest. And we do this every 6 months because we need the volume, except that they're not
Well, yeah. So
retaining
what the
readership.
well the issue is a couple things. Like the reason why like Detective Comics is over 1,000 issues is there's enough story to drive 1,000 issues.
Yes.
When you plan out your thing to be 6 issue miniseries, that's typical kind of situation where they do six issues and then it's the next miniseries.
Yeah.
Um, then what ends up happening is you design your story and your content that way, where you
Yeah.
really don't have the that longevity of story, and you really can't, you know, keep those same readers. You get your one and done kind of situation, and you move on to the next thing. Um, so I think I'd like to see them try to build more legacy stuff where it's like something where it's
Yes.
going to continue on, and you want to bring those readers up. And the only way to do that is to have something that kind of can carry on more than 6 issues and carry on to
Yeah.
maybe 1,000 issues again. I don't see anything like that nowadays. I don't see any
Yeah.
books that have
The
that kind of gravitas. Like,
80% of series don't make it to 12 issues, and the rest have planned obsolescence, usually at 25.
yeah, yeah. I mean, 25 is actually there's not that many that even get to that far.
Yeah, I know. They
It's
did
like,
that with the last Conan series before Titan took it over. They planned it to go 25 issues. They
mhm,
did two larger arcs and two smaller arcs, and then thin, boom.
yeah.
It was and the thing is, the books were good. They're actually pretty solid stories. But when you're planning obsolescence like that, now I mean with the legacy numbering in Conan's case, I brought it to 300. But still, if you're not planning
Yeah.
more than that,
Yeah. I mean, there has to be something that's beyond
yeah,
that. So, um, yeah. And so the other issue is just the content has to be
yeah,
tailored to kids and also to adults. You have to have like, the one thing that I always talk about on my channel is that you have you have manga
yeah,
blowing up. It is just extremely profitable and huge. It's like making the comic thing look like nothing, an afterthought. And
exactly,
the reason manga is doing so well is they can make manga about pretty much anything. You could
yeah,
have a golf manga. You could have fishing manga. You could have manga about boys with you know, like a thing that's alien in their hand.
yeah.
Parasite. Or you could have like time travel ones or whatever. Like
Hello.
exactly, exactly. So the point is, they don't try to like appeal to everybody.
Yeah.
They just try to like write a really great story that appeals to somebody. And you know, they have enough like ambition and drive to make that really great story that they will find their audience. And you know, people go crazy for manga. What we need to do is get those manga people over to the comics, and
Yeah.
so by not appealing to everybody, just appealing to good storytelling. And that weird thing is when you don't try to appeal to everybody and you just try to tell a good story, you actually appeal to
People
everybody.
will
It's a
pick
weird
up.
difference.
People pick up on that because there are many books that I've bought over the years that I didn't think were going to be my cup of tea, but I ended up being pleasantly surprised. And
Yeah.
then there were other books that I was like, for example, I will use the example of Something is Killing the Children. I thought, oh, the hype is out there. People are buying it. It must be good.
Mhm.
It didn't work for me, but that's just me.
Yeah, I found like it worked for up to a certain point, and then
Right.
I kind of lost interest. So I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, I did a double. What I did was I bought the trade for issues 1 to 5. And then I bought 3 of the current issues at the time. They were 30 to 32. And
mhm.
that way I had 2 parts
There's
to look
parts,
at.
yeah.
And actually, the 30 to 32 was just, yeah,
Yeah,
1
see,
to
that's what I'm
5 was
saying.
okay.
See, I
Yeah,
lost my interest after about 6 or 7. Like
right.
somewhere around there, and I just like, yeah. I just
Yeah.
sort of lost interest.
I mean,
You know, it was good up to that point, but
I
yeah,
will give anything a shot.
yeah, yeah, me too.
I've read Strawberry Shortcake. You
Yeah, I
know,
mean, actually, funny thing is, some of those are actually quite good. Like those silly,
yeah.
silly little random
I've
ones.
read the Smurfs. I've read Alf. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's funny
um,
actually.
yeah. Well,
It's
certainly one of
like,
the covers is anyway. Um,
yeah.
Before we call it a day here, is there anything else you'd like to remind the people about your Kickstarter? Your name
Yeah,
and
just so yeah, so it's Vixens of the Golden Age, and
right?
it's on Kickstarter. I'll give you the link. Please click the link and support it.
Yeah,
If you really, I hope people like the Golden Age girls. I mean, they are
yeah.
pretty cool in my mind, but like I'm pretty
I would
crazy.
take a good guess that the vast majority of your subscribers are into the good girl art too.
Yeah, I'm actually curious how well it will perform with
Hmm.
my audience. You know, I think I have about 100 people that I know are like the die-hard fans of my channel. And
Yeah,
then the rest are sort of like these transient people that I'm not sure if they'll actually support it. But
you have more diehards than I've got subscribers, so I wouldn't worry about it
yeah, so
at the moment.
well, you're
So
a relatively new channel. It'll happen.
yeah,
You're growing actually quite fast. So
well, thank you very much, Alan, for your time today. I look forward to the Kickstarter. Everybody out there, if you haven't checked out Alan's channel, please do so. It is very professional. It is very good, and there's some seriously great books. And Alan's knowledge is pretty deep. And he also does a weekly feature where he answers questions. So he gives you the opportunity to ask any comic related questions that you have. Don't ask him the capital of Argentina, because we all know that what that is, but that's beside the point. I think that's not the expertise we're going for here.
yeah. So
And
thanks again for having me on here, by the way.
no problem.
Nice.
And if you like what I've done, please give it a like, comment, subscribe. We're all friends here. We're all trying to push the comic book goodness to the world. That's why we exist. That's why I exist. I'm not here to make my fortune. I am here simply to spread the good word of the comic book. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Alan, and
Thanks.
everybody will have a good time. My name's Matt. I like comics, and I hope you do too.